Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas come. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. Okay, so the answer just came to me. I've been toiling over how we would, you know what I think we need, are you, yes, they have on coats. Yes, get another, cool, we can get one from the line. Thank you so much. So it's wonderful when you have a teacher from whom you can take instructions and immediately put them into practice. It's like having your own, okay. And that's yours, thank you. Okay, sorry. It's like having the safety of a parent that loves you. You can tell you the hard sayings and you can receive it because you know they have only the highest and best intentions for you. I don't need it for me, but if you could like put it over there or over there where it can get the room out of it. Thank you. But sometimes in order to be able to receive it in that way, there's some foundation that must be laid. So I was trying to think about how we'd start our new Tuesday book study. And 3 different books came up, and I know we can't study 3 different books at one time. So I said, then maybe I need to do all 3 books, but people could choose which one, and we'll try to figure out how to integrate them that way. And that felt a little bit disjointed and confusing. And so now it has come to me more purely how I can do this in a way that's truly beneficial. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to review Buddhadasa Bhikkhu's The Prison of Life. And we're coming up on the last month of the year. I'd like to start January with Shanti Deva's Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life. But the problem with introducing that is we don't have enough of a foundation of what bodhicitta is, and also cultivating and developing bodhicitta. So it will just become one more intellectual exercise for us if we don't also have a practice of putting into practice the stanzas that we study, because that's where the real understanding comes. We think about, we take a stanza and we think about the meaning of that, but that's just the intellectual part or the understanding part. So we do understand it, but the capacity to apply it to really support our affliction is an entirely different thing. And so we're learning, we started midway through this year, and we're continuing in a very accelerated fashion. And I'm like really, really happy at our results. I know that they're tremendously painful, but when you come out on the other side of just one little thing, it is so inspiring. There's an inspiration, one that is focused, is turned back on oneself and not on anyone or anything out there. One begins to recognize that we truly possess the capacity, to uproot suffering in our life, and that we do it. And thinking about how to put this together, I think we'll start with the prison of life, and we should be able to get through that. In maybe 2 weeks. I mean, it's a small book. It's only 37 pages. And 2 weeks. And then we'll go into No Time to Lose by Pema Chodron. And we will spend 3 months reading that. And then we'll go into the Bodhisattva way of life. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start with the prison of life today. And the prison of life is just designed to help us come to a conclusion where we can begin to really when I say we can begin to see the danger in impermanence, and impermanence is more than just things change all the time. We know things change all the time, but we're speaking of impermanence in a different way. Impermanence actually is the root factor of this life of existence, and seeing the danger in that and what is produced at the end of that, which is the rounds of rebirth. And when one truly sees the danger in that, then comes a capacity to cultivate in a way that's not there if one doesn't see a danger in it. So it doesn't mean like that we hate life, that we want to kill ourselves, that we want to die, that we don't want to have any enjoyments. No, we want to be able to fully, have our enjoyments, just without the dukkha, and with the liberties and the freedoms to truly enjoy them. And it's now we're like refining our practice. So we're not just talking about basic concepts, but we're like breaking them down in a different kind of way that really is where we're getting down to the metal of it, and this is the thing that cannot be taught, that it can only be experienced. So it's not like we learn or we study and we're taught things, and then suddenly at the end, we have this experience that cannot be articulated, and that's enlightenment. It's not like that, but it's step by step. We are the brightness is arising, but it only arises through our actual conduct, through the things that we can endure and triumph over in our life. So it's not just about enduring hardships. It is where the realization comes and gives one a triumph over them, even if the thing that's happening is not going to be any different. So we spent like half the night in the hospital with Deepa last night, and I'm waiting for the doctor. And we think we have to take him back, so I'm going to have to go right after dawn.
Is this going to buzz?
the light will flash on and you'll see. You'll see. And if you miss it, don't worry. I'll just call when I finish the class. And so when you're able to work with the winds of life, you know, without this bit of suffering, and I'm not talking about faking it till you make it. That's our worldly thing, fake it till you make it. But actually, it's something not too far from it. It's just continually looking at it until you see and overcome the suffering in it. And that nobody can take from you. That's going to need to be with you. I remember when my father died in 78, and he was like the light of my life. And I had a very difficult childhood and a difficult relationship with my mother and difficult relationship with my siblings. And I was an introvert, and believe it or not, I still am an introvert, you know, so I just have to do my job. But, you know, so I was a lonely and alone child. But my father was the brightness in my life. And so when he developed Alzheimer's, and in just a few weeks, and that was when they were just discovering, you know, or naming Alzheimer's, and they didn't really know what to do. And I'm not sure there's a lot that you can do. But in just a few weeks, you know, he went from what appeared to be normally functioning to not being able to identify his body parts. And so it was a very difficult time. And then one day he said to me, baby, he said, you know, I've been here from the era of the horse and buggy to the man on the moon. He said, that's too much in any one lifetime. I'm done. And he closed his mouth and he didn't speak again. And in 2 weeks, he died. And so I was thinking about how precious that he was to me, and how he gave me a reason. He gave me a reason for living. So they said to me, everybody around, they said, you know, I know you're suffering. I know you're going through a lot of grief, and it's going to be so hard on you. And you're just looking like you're handling it, you know. He says, but they all decided that when that time came, that he actually died, that I was just going to lose it, you know, completely. So then he died and I didn't lose it. They were saying any day now, she's going to, I mean, they were like just putting it on me, any day now, she's going to lose it completely. But I never did. And I never did because even at that stage in my life, I recognized that there were helps available to me. Maybe I couldn't help myself, but there was something that I held to that held me back in that time. And so I never grieved when my father died. And they kept saying, well, you know, like a year from now, it's going to hit her hard. And then it was 5 years and then they died, you know, so it never happened. It never happened for me. So it's a joyful story, although my father died. And, you know, it's like not missing him. It was like he was never born and he never died. It was those two things coming together that are just allowed that passage in the night and that coming together to be there so beautifully. But what happened was, on the morning that he died, we took him to the hospital, and I was in his room with him, and the nurse came in to bathe him, and I said, oh, he doesn't need a bath, you know, we like, we want to spend time with him. And she was like, I got to do my job, and you have to leave, you know, and we went out into the family area, and she said, when I'm finished, you can come back. And then we heard the code blue. And so we didn't get to see him at the at the very end. They worked on it for a few minutes, and when they called the code blue, I knew that it was for him. And that was it. But while I was sitting there, right at that moment, there was a voice that had guided me ever since I asked the question at age 6, like, what is this life all about? There was an inner voice that would guide me from time to time over the years. I did all my things, all my wild and woolly days, all my in and out of the church, all of my, I was just a normal sort of typical teen, all my rebellious time. I might still be in a little bit of that. And, but yet there was something constantly calling me, speaking to me and guiding me when I got too close to the precipice. And I consider that a fortunate life, regardless of anything else that is going on in my life. You have something that kept me from going off the edge again and again and again throughout my life. So while I was sitting there, and I said, I know that's for my dad, that voice said, I can make this as easy as going to the store for you. And I said, well, if you can, make it so. And it was exactly like that. I had some students moving into at Howard University, moving into some rooming houses I had around the campus. And they were supposed to move in that next day, and the rooms weren't ready. And now he was dead. And all I could think about was, I have to get those rooms ready because their parents are sending them there and they're trusting me to take care of their children. And I left the hospital and I went and I got those rooms ready. That evening I went over to the house and I helped my family make arrangements. And it was just like that. And so I'm saying that even then, before I found the Dharma, and that's why I'm so excited about the Dharma, because I know that it definitely leads somewhere. And I came in half knowing there was somewhere to go. I don't want to roll around, just keep rolling around there. I want to go the distance in this very life. And that's why we're bumping it up a notch. And, I encourage as many people as wish to go with us. It's going to be an exciting journey. And so that you don't get disconnected and disjointed, we're not taking one teaching and throwing it out. We're taking the same teachings, but we're approaching them from different sides, and we're just going deeper. So I'm using Buddhadasa, very straightforward, considered a living Buddha in his time, considered an arhat. I'll use that word so that I don't scare anybody. And Pema Chodron, one of the rare contemporary spiritual teachers who reach us with the timeless wisdom in an understandable and approachable way. And then we'll go into Shantideva's, which is a little more obtruse language, but because we don't have a good enough foundation, we'll be able to take that language and we'll be able to unpack it. And that's some of the fun of it, to begin to unpack and know, what these reasons, because it lets us know that we're moving into the realm of being able to truly understand spiritual language. I remember when I had my baby and I was first introduced to her, sometimes she couldn't chew food and I would chew it for her and then put it in her mouth. And so it's something like that sometimes. And I see Pema as one like that, the mother who chews the food to help make it more digestible for a child. But then we'll start to get to these ancient texts and truly understand spiritual language. When you read it, oh, that means such and such, because you will have realized something from the inside. Okay, so I'm going to start with Buddha Dasa today. These are a series of short, very short lectures. Today we'll talk about the thing called prison. This book is downloadable. It is, isn't it? Yes, it's downloadable on the internet. It's called The Prison of Life. And some of us have already read it 2 times. Today we'll talk about the thing called prison. This should help us to understand the thing called life better. Then we'll know Dharma better, which will help us to live life without dukkha, dissatisfaction, pain, stress, and suffering. So today we'll talk about this thing called prison. Please prepare your mind and listen carefully. Whenever the conditions and signs of prison exist, right there, that is dukkha. You should observe that all the forms and types of dukkha have a quality of prison about them. Being captured or incarcerated, enchained, and put through difficulties and hassles are characteristics of dukkha. If you understand this, then you will understand more clearly the meaning of what we call upadana, or clinging and attachment. Wherever there's upadana, right there, that's prison. This thing, upadana itself, brings about the condition called imprisonment. Wherever there is upadana, right there, there is bondage. The bondage can be positive or negative. Both are equally binding. By regarding things and clinging to them as I or as mine, bondage occurs. When bound to something, we get stuck in it, just like being stuck in prison. Now, where we move from understanding to on the path towards accomplishment is when we move beyond agreeing. Nobody disagrees with this passage. Nobody at all. Okay. And it says, but it says, by regarding things as clinging to them as I or mine. Don't even use the word clinging, seeing them as I or mine, understanding them as myself or mine. Bondage occurs right there. So the way out of bondage is in that very moment that one feels or senses a clinging to something as I or mine. It's not when we're reading about it, doing our Buddha studies. It's in the moment when there is that feeling that's arising that's based on a sense of something belonging to you, being yours, or some aspect being of you yourself. So right there is where the practice has to occur. Not in the classroom, not on the meditation cushion, but right in that moment when that sense of binding occurs. And it says it's just like being stuck in prison. So all of the Dharma principles of Buddhism can be summarized. Upadana is the cause of dukkha. Dukkha is born out of upadana, or that the attachment of the binding, seeing things as myself, or seeing things or others as belonging to oneself. To make it easy to understand, we must see it clearly as being just like a prison, a mental prison, a spiritual prison. We come to study Dharma and develop samadhi, that's mental stability and calm, and vipassana, and that's insight, in order to destroy upadana. We study the Dharma and develop the mind in order to destroy the prison that entraps us. So we're not like beating ourselves down. We're not killing ourselves. We're destroying the prison. We're breaking down the prison walls. We're speaking about a mental or spiritual prison, but it has the same meaning as a concrete prison. It's just like the physical prisons that people are caught in everywhere, but now we're speaking purely of a spiritual prison. This prison's a bit odd or extraordinary in that we can't see its substance with our eyes. What's even more extraordinary is that people volunteer and get locked up in this prison. People are actually delighted to go and get locked up in spiritual prison. This is a very queer aspect of spiritual prison. You must recall the words salvation or liberation that are used in all religions. The final goal of all religions is salvation or emancipation or whatever word is most suitable in each language. But all these words have the same meaning, getting saved. All religions teach salvation. Yet from what are we saved? We're saved from spiritual prison. The thing that all of you want and need, even right at this moment, is the thing called freedom or liberty. So when we finish all of our studies, then we're going to study not the path of purification. We're going to study the Mahamudra, the path of freedom. So we spent the last 2 years talking about purification, purifying. And now we're going to approach it from the other side, from the perspective of freedom. The thing that all of you want and need, even right at this moment, is that thing called freedom or liberty, which is simply escape from prison, whether physical, material prison, or mental, spiritual prison. The meaning is the same in all cases. We want freedom. Those who lack wisdom can see and fear only the physical, material prisons, but those who have the wisdom, the panya to look more deeply will see how much more terrifying and dangerous the spiritual prison really is. Really, we can see that hardly anybody is locked up in the ordinary jails while everyone in the world is caught in the spiritual prison. For instance, every one of you sitting here is free from the ordinary prison, but you are incarcerated in spiritual prison. That which drives us to be interested in Dharma, that brings us to come to study Dharma, to practice mental development, is the oppression and the force of being caught in a spiritual prison. Whether you feel it or not is not important. It forces us, no matter what, to struggle and search for a way out of this spiritual imprisonment. Nonetheless, it's forcing all of you, whether you realize it or not, to find spiritual freedom. So you come looking here and other such places, and although that which imprisons us is only one thing, namely upadana, all by itself, this prison takes on many different forms. There are dozens of styles and kinds of prison. If we take the time to study every type of prison, it will help us to understand this phenomenon much better. And then we will understand upadana better, and we'll also better understand prana, craving, and kilesa, defilements of the mind, which according to the Buddhist teachings cause dukkha. We will understand the issue of dukkha if we understand the issue of prison clearly and thoroughly. I'd like to advise that you use this word upadana instead of attachment or any other English translation. Those English words are constantly being misunderstood. You may not understand it fully at this time, but try to use this word upadana to accustom your mouth, your mind, and your feelings to it. We must realize that the heart of Buddhism is to wipe out upadana. The heart of Buddhism is that which gets rid of upadana or cut it out. Then there is no prison. Then there is no dukkha. So I would say that might not totally be the heart. The heart is to overcome the rounds of rebirth. But these are the things that keep us stuck in the rounds of rebirth. So if we can see this clearly, then and that obstacle is is removed, then we will understand and we will press towards full liberation in this life. You must take the meaning of the English words attachment, grasping, and clinging, and then combine them together, and you get the meaning of Upadana. It may be one simple word, but Upadana is the most important thing. The heart of Buddhism is just to uproot or cut out this Upadana. Now, it's the most important thing at the beginning of the journey because it takes you to other places. If that was the ultimate thing, then we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. But it was because of the bodhicitta and the compassion of the Buddha and all his disciples who taught his teaching and continue up to this day that we have the opportunity to even begin to free ourselves. So this is the most important thing in the beginning. Once this is done, other things become important. We can't get to those important things if we have not come through this gate and we have not attained this release. And that's why we try our best to do our best. And yet we find ourselves like pitiful in our understanding and in our actual actions because we have not taken care of the first thing first. Please understand that this is the heart of Buddhism and is found in every sect and school, Theravada, Mahayana, Zen, Tibetan, whatever kind of Buddhism you like. They're different only in name or in external ceremonies and practices, but inside, it's all the same thing. First, we must cut off attachment. Don't be sad, don't be disappointed, don't be anxious, don't make trouble for yourself thinking that you haven't been able to study all these schools. Don't worry. If you haven't been able to study Buddhism in Tibet or in Sri Lanka or in Burma or in China or anywhere, that's a waste of time. There's just a single essence of heart of it all. And naming is to eliminate Upadana. The labels, Theravada, Mahayana, Zen, Tibetan, Chinese, reflect only the outer covers of what seems to be different kinds of Buddhism. If there are any differences, they are merely surface or superficial ones, just a bunch of accumulated rites or rituals. The true heart of the matter, the heart, is the same everywhere. So just study this one thing and don't waste time being sad or thinking that you haven't studied in all the different kinds of Buddhism. Study the single matter, cutting off Upadana, and that is enough. And I'm gonna skip over a little bit. No, what I like about, maybe I just have an affinity for these teachers who are very repetitious, you know, because I am very repetitious, but I understand that that's how things get into you. There's a song that we're singing, the choir's a little ditty I learned when I was a child. It said, what goes into the ear goes to the heart. That's how children learn to speak. They listen. But what goes in through the eye can fool the mind. That's how grown-ups learn to be so blind. And I've always remembered it, and it's come back around to me now in a very profound way. The Buddha Master's constantly talking about listening and listening to Dharma, you know, and how listening to Dharma and putting it into practice is 90% of the path. Meditation is 10%. We've got it backwards, so we spend all these years sitting on the cushion, and we make some progress, but we don't make enough progress. But if we would listen to continually, it's in us, and it's working. And then it'll just work its way out of us without us really having that much to do with things because we have broken that Upadana. So we're still doing, we're still engaging, We're still in relationship, but yet without that sense, or so much of that sense of I and mine. And what we find in the course of that is we're able to like just do what needs to be done. And there's not so much feeling behind it. Not that feeling is a bad thing, but that we're not moved by how we feel either way. We can feel happy about it. We can feel not happy about it. But if we have concluded that it is the thing that should be done, or it is beneficial, it's the right thing, then we like just do it. And we might be laughing in the beginning, might be laughing and talking about how we're suffering going through it. And yet we find ourselves able to easily go through it. But it takes that recognizing at the moment, this right here, the way I'm holding it, that's suffering for me. And you and I can be doing the same thing together at the same time, and it can be joyous for one of us, and it can be purely torture for the other. So it's not in the thing. It's where and how we connect to the thing, or to the people we have to do the thing with. And so this is where the actual work is. I think I'm going to stop for a minute. Well, let me just. The next section is discover it inside. Okay, so let me just read this and we'll have a few minutes, and then I'm going to just open it up so that you can begin to give some feedback to what we're trying to accomplish over the study and what we're trying to get from it, and how it can be useful, because this is going to constantly be now self-reflection, not learning something new, not learning something titillating. Actually, some of these things are going to be troublesome, because we're stuck in our habitual tendencies and habitual ways of seeing things. To speak most correctly, we really can't learn from scriptures, from techniques, or from various teachings if we are to be truly successful. To successfully reap any real benefits, we must learn in the thing itself, namely in the actual prison. Study the actual dukkha itself, that prison itself. So we better look for and find this prison. At this point, if we are confronted by two choices, are you going to learn from the outside, or are you going to learn from the inside? The distinction is crucial. The Buddha said that we must study from inside. The external learning is from books, ceremonies, practices, and things like that. Everything that we must learn, the Tathagata has explained in terms of the body, which is still alive. That means a living body with a living mind, not a dead one. That's where real learning takes place. So learn there. Learn from that inside, which means learn within yourself while still alive before you die. External studies, learning from books and all those different ceremonies and rituals haven't accomplished anything of value. So let's study inside. Please remember these words, learn inside. And once you actually learn inside, there are things that we can make use of. But if we try to make use of those things, but there's not the corresponding virtue and the corresponding conduct coming from the inside, those things are empty. That's why one of the first recognitions of freedom is freedom from rites and rituals, thinking that the rites and the rituals will do something, and one needs to really do them, and they will have some results. That's the same, like just doing things in our life, how we care for others, even in our generosity. You could call that a rite and a ritual, because we give because we're supposed to be generous or whatever, or we do things for people because we're supposed to help people. And but thinking that because I helped somebody, and thinking of it in terms of I've earned merits like that, since that's the wrong idea. Yes, the merits are earned, because the deed is the deed, and good or bad, the fruit co-arises with it. But it's a ditty in the head to think that because I do good, that I am correct or that I'm right, although you are correct. It has to do with an understanding in the head, because even do-gooding, I like that one better. However, because do-gooding can also become a prison if there's still the I that is doing. So remember these words: learn inside. To do an inner study takes a fairly good amount of patience and endurance, but not too much, actually, in comparison with some of the things other people are practicing, such as just worldly things, high-level sports, gymnastics, acrobatics. Training in samadhi and vipassana is less difficult. Yet people have enough endurance and perseverance to be able to do those things. Just have moderate endurance, and you'll be able to train with samadhi and vipassana through mindfulness breathing. Some people can't take it and have run away already. We've had enough endurance to get this far. If we continue a bit more, then we'll be able to do it and we'll receive the proper benefits. So please apply yourself to this inner study and do so with sufficient patience and with endurance. Using metaphors makes it easier for us to understand the matters that we're discussing. So we will continually make use of them in this study. And then we go on to talk in specifics about the different kinds of prisons, how instinct is a prison. And these instincts can they can be many different things, all the way up to just even the instinct of showing off. The instinct is a prison, the senses are a prison. And we talk about how the senses are prison. We're going to spend a day, I won't say a week, each of these. I'd like for you to spend a week, but we can't get through the book to get to No Time to Lose. So we'll spend a day or 2 days at home just reviewing each one. The senses are a prison. Sacred institutions, they're a prison. Superstition is a prison. Even teachers are a prison. Holy things are a prison. You see how it's bumping up and up from things like we know that's a prison to like, I'm not so sure that's a prison, but that's a prison. Like, I don't think that's a prison at all. Goodness is a prison. Views are prisons. And even purity, and said purity is the highest prison. And then we go into what is not a prison. Voidness is not a prison. So I'd like for you to download this book this week and we're already on page 17. You see, it's not a big book. And I'd like for you to read Life Itself is Prison. And the instincts of prison and the senses of prison. So that's pages 17 through 26. Life itself is a prison. It's got photographs too to take up pages. Life itself is a prison. Instincts are prison. And the senses are prison. I'm gonna tell you, it'll make you really look at yourself and how you respond to things. You know, where your go-to place is for your information. You know, where we have not realized our internal dialogue is, and how we have a pattern of behavior that we say, this I know I can trust, and you really trust it. And let's see what we discover about ourselves. And as this was coming to me today, and taking stock, I mean, it's really taking stock at how we make our decisions, how we view things, how we hold things through the bars of these prisons. Now, there's a practice that most of us, I don't think all of us in this room are doing, except Sada, is the Mahamudra of Liberation, right? And this goes in such concert with the practice, the Mahamudra of Liberation. And the first part of that, the first section, has to do with planting the seeds for good fortune in one's life. And it's the kind of good fortune that grows, the sprouts from the seeds of goodness we plant, rather than anything we do to get it. You know, so it shifts our life in a kind of way that allows us to be on the train and it's heading to its destination. Like, you can't stop that. You just can't even stop it. And that means things happening when they should happen, you know, when they're in the most opportune time, breakthroughs from obstacles, because we're no longer trying to figure them out or figure somebody out or fix them or change them or, you know, just working on ourselves internally. And these, the rewards of the fruits of goodness are rising, co-arising with the deeds by itself. This is, like he said, this is, as Buddha Master calls it, this is the easy. That we've taken the hard road, thinking it's the easy road. So now I want to show you the easy road. And as one's mind gets refreshed in this way, you know, you could call it the game of life. It's a very serious game, but we won't take it so seriously. Because as the eye starts to rub out, then the crushing weight of life begins to be released for us. So I'd like to go ahead and open it up for you. Yeah.
Yes. Is there an author?
Buddhadasa Bhikkhu.
G-A-S-A?
Buddhadasa.
D-A-S-A.
B-U-D-D-H-A-D-A-S-A, Bhikkhu. And I think, do we have any left here?
When I try to email them or
No, I mean, do we have any more here? Because we got like 50 copies at one time.
I think we've given them all
We're
away.
giving them all away. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. Can we get some more?
So when I did try to contact them, they said that they didn't contact me back.
Okay.
So
Well, I tell you what, don't contact them. Here's their address. Just send them a love offering and say, send us 100 books.
that's what I did last time. And
Yeah.
they didn't give us they haven't contacted us or
You,
called me back or anything. So
but you sent an offering to them.
yeah, we did it all.
But we got books then.
Okay,
I've only written one check.
I'll talk to
And we got a bunch of books.
Pusita and see where they are.
Okay. Yeah, no.
No, I think we should send an offering because I think that's what we think.
Yes, yes. Mhm. Yeah. because they're the only ones that publish it. The Amayama Tarama Buddhist Monastery.
Do a song for that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you gonna pay for that. I would look a lot of times at, making fun, but I'm really irreverent. I apologize for that.
Sorry.
But sometimes when I'm looking at all of these words, they're words, they're just another language, And they're saying like, you got, use these words and it doesn't work for me because I start thinking about the name song for Nana Banner, Fofana, and it's just too. So I just rather need something in plain English that I can chew on, and through the intention of my heart, I can come to the deepest meaning of it. So this is where I sort of disagree with him on that, but we can always agree to not be able to hold everything exactly the way it's coming to us. That's how we also are our own teacher. And then you should go ahead and order No Time to Lose by Pema Children, because we'll start that one in a couple of weeks. Okay, yeah. Anything anyone would like to share? The Path of Freedom, the Moody Marker, was sort of replaced by the Vasudi Marker, so there are no new prints, but they're old copies that you can get. This one, you can see how old that is. That's old. I don't know, it looks like this was done on a typewriter. It's so old, and the pages are brown. I was able to get 2 copies, from Amazon. And these, I don't think these aren't used. They were new. They're just old because of the Sudi Maga came out, and this was replaced as the standard, the standard training manual for monastics, and these became the path of purification rather than the path of freedom. And then the book grew in size to about triple this. And then these manuscripts were burned. So that, but luckily, there were obviously some copies somewhere that the book was able to go forward. And I think that's a good thing.
Who's the author by the Sutamaga again?
The Arhat Upatissa.
This is Vimudi Maga, you said.
The Vimudi Maga, Bimutttimagga. Vimudi Maga. And so I love this book, we're talking about rebirth and all of that. And we wonder, was that in the original teachings? And it's so absolutely, well, I'm just read one little paragraph and why I find it so delightful. There are 3 kinds of rebirth, the merit of which can produce rebirth in the world of Brahma is this. In first meditation, jhana, 3 kinds, lower, middling, and upper. When a man considers the special means but does not remove the 5 hindrances well and does not reach the state of freedom, it is called the lower meditation jhana. When he considers the special means and removes the 5 hindrances but does not reach the state of freedom, it's called a middle meditation jhana. When a man considers the special means and removes the hindrances as well and reaches the state of freedom, it's called the higher meditation jhana. If a yogin attains to the lower first meditation jhana, after his death, he will join the retinue of Brahma, and his lifespan will be 1/3 of an eon. If he practices the middling, he will, after his death, be reborn as a chief Brahma, and his lifespan will be 1/2 an eon. If he practices the higher first meditations, he'll be reborn as a great Brahma, and his lifespan will be 1 eon. And then he goes on and on into the different realms or planes of existence. So all of this that we talk about that we think is so new and so strange coming into the Mahayana view and coming in to the Vajrayana view, it is actually there. I won't say that it's all there in the Theravada view, because the Theravada is a relatively new school, but it was the later development of the original teachings. So Theravada didn't exist until over 1,000 years later. So it's not one of the original schools at all. So when we talk about tradition of the elders, that is the Theravada. Actually, it is part of the tradition. It's not all of it. But every patriarch of every lineage or tradition has found a gateway to the deathless, and they expounded that, and that's how it broke out into so many different schools. They entering through different Dharma gates, but we can't say any one thing belongs to the Theravada or to the Mahayana or to the Vajrayana or to the Zen school. We just need to take what is Buddhayana and be open to that. So I have a great debt of gratitude, like teachers like Buddhadasa and His Holiness Virgin Chain, Buddha the Third. And there are a couple of other, they're dead now, but recent teachers who really reached the pinnacle of realization, and they left us breadcrumbs, that we can. Okay, anybody want to sketch?
This is something, when we started this 50 weeks back in February, this is an insight that I wrote, and I just read it, and it's because you mentioned recognition several times today, and even Sunday night, I think, if the recognition came up, the value of recognition. So I wrote, since recognition of something, thoughts, cravings, conditioning, is needed before meaningful letting go is possible, and since recognition comes of its own accord and in its own time, true recognition, then there is no need for guilt. We can make effort towards changing our mind, which can lead to recognition of the truth of the matter. But it's only when true recognition occurs that letting go of that habit, desire, conditioning, belief is possible. In fact, letting go is the automatic outcome of recognition. I was running around the house, finding Sue, like, listen, wow, look what I found.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it exciting? It truly is. I mean, I just don't know what to say. It really, the recognition, so I'm constantly now recognizing, and there's no self-flagellation in it at all. It's like, oh, look at there, because that's not what I'm trying to do right there. And that's how we rub out those spots. But if we don't see them, and if we do when we see them, we take them as what? Yeah. If we take them as mine, then we're sunk from the very beginning. Right? But when we do see them, but we don't take them as mine, then the effort, we can put forth the right effort that allows us to, I won't say easily let them go, but really see the need to say bye-bye. And then this whole thing becomes a joy, and you just can't wait for what you're gonna learn today. Yeah. So I'd like to ask you all to keep on deeper in your prayers. And I need to take. May you be well and happy and peaceful, may no harm come to you, and no danger, may you always be able to meet the inevitable difficulties of life.